Hey, welcome back to Appalachian Expose. Of course, I'm the franchise Shane Douglas, former world champion, and I got somebody here with me. Like most of my friends, somebody that doesn't need any introduction, right? Robert Gibson, one half of the great Rock and Roll Express. First of all, proceed to be a
Yeah,
brother.
man, it's always a pleasure to see you, buddy.
You know, I've known these guys like since I was like a snot nosed kid. Like, yeah, right. I mean, I
Make me feel young.
didn't know how to lace my boots, right? But you know, I always tell the kids in the business, like for me, sitting in that dressing room, and the Rock and Roll Express, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat. What's not to learn, right? I mean, just sit back and watch it. I mean,
It's amazing. It's amazing when you sit back like that, and as you're lacing your boots, you look around. Wow, history on that guy.
yeah,
History on that guy.
yeah,
Here comes Jake the Snake.
Yeah.
Here's Ricky Steamboat.
right.
Uh, to have the pleasure to be in that building
Yeah. Like early in my career, I would sit there and there's Bruno Sammartino and there's all these people you're mentioning them, and honestly, I'm thinking to myself like, how the fuck did I get in here? Like, what am I doing here?
exactly.
Like one of these things don't belong here, and it's
you
me.
pinch yourself like, is this for real?
Yes, yeah,
I remember you talking about the old timers. I guess I'm an old timer.
yeah, we all are anyway. Yes.
But when I was a kid going to wrestling, my favorite guy was a wrestling pro. His name was Tarzan Baxter. This guy wore a white outfit, white top, wore a white mask. And me being a kid in this business growing up, I was allowed to go in the back and do different things.
Yeah,
Some places I wasn't allowed to go.
mm-hmm.
Like you couldn't get in the ring if somebody was in the building.
Sure.
Things you could do and things you couldn't do. But like I said, wrestling pro was my favorite. And I always tried to catch him with his mask off. He would drive up to the auditorium with his mask on, and he would leave. You know, if he got busted open
Yeah,
that night, he left with a bloody mask.
sure.
And
How protective they were.
how protective. One time I thought, he's got to take a shower at night because his head's all busted.
Yeah.
So I sneak back here in the back, and I'm right down the road from the shower. He goes in there, and I give him about 5 minutes, and I just walk by. I'll be damned, that mask was still on. I never saw him.
Yeah.
And about 3 years,
How old are you at this point?
I just turned 64.
No. I mean, when this is
I
happening,
was
this dress
14.
kid. So,
Yeah, 13, 14 years old.
Right.
Greener than green can be.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to catch him. And about 3 years later, now this wasn't just one time, this is several times. You can never catch these guys.
Yeah.
So 3 years later, we were in a restaurant, and my brother says, "There's a wrestling pro." Looking around. I don't see him. He's right in front of you. Ain't nobody even resemble him.
Right.
And he spotted the guy out. And he looked like a damn college professor.
Right.
And just completely different from what I imagined. But when he got up and was leaving, I could see in his shirt, his back muscles were he. I said, "I'll be damned, that is him."
Yeah.
And I become really good friends with him. I was friends with him before that. But it's amazing, like I said, to be in their world.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And you're sitting here watching a sport that you've literally grown up watching on television. In your case, in the buildings and dressing rooms. We'll jump all over the place. I usually start at the beginning. I'll try to get that thrown out before I forget.
Yeah.
So, you and Ricky have been around the world. We've all really been dug some deep ruts in this planet, right? And in every place you go, whether it's an autograph signing, a show, the connection that the Rock and Roll Express had to their audience was amazing to watch. But did it ever sink to you and think, okay, like, what was it about you and Ricky, or any of us in the dressing room? We were all marks at one point. Still, I mean, I don't know if mark became a bad word, but when we were marks watching the business from the outside in, what was it in your head that said, "I'm going to give this a try"?
If you go back, my brother Rick Gibson was 6 years older than me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm 10 years old, and he's putting up the rings. He's selling tickets. He's selling cokes. Eventually, he went to selling tickets, then started refereeing, and then started wrestling. So I'm behind him, and I just slowly followed in his footsteps. And I got a chance to meet the great Mario Glintos, Duke Miller, Bobby Shane. All these guys I had the pleasure to meet as I was growing up. I paid my dues. I put the rings up.
Sure.
So walked around back there, wore a little cart with little coats.
Oh yeah.
It was an outdoor arena with no roof, right next to a railroad track where they had it. And the fans, like I said, had no roof on it. So we was down the valley, and the fans would set up the tree on the railroad tracks and watch the wrestling.
Sure. Yeah.
And at 10 years old, growing up, I've been involved in professional wrestling since I was 10.
10 years old.
Yeah.
But even like being around it like that, how do I word this? I'm sure those wrestlers in that dressing room back then didn't come to say, "Hey kid, let me tell you all the secrets,"
No.
right? They kept it still. You're an outsider.
Yeah.
Was there a part of you
I was semi-smart, thought I was smart,
Yeah.
but I didn't know nothing.
Yeah. Were you concerned then getting in the way that those old timers is uber kayfabe?
Yeah.
Were you afraid getting in thinking like, these guys are going to beat the shit out of me?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was there any kind of trepidation to that?
Well,
Worry of that?
I guess I was too young to think that.
Yeah.
I really was too young at 10 years old.
Right.
I started training with Al Spider Glinto. I don't know if you ever know him or
I've heard the name, never met him.
look him up. He was like, back in the day, like Billy Robinson told me one time. He said, Al Glinto was a catch wrestler. Catch wrestler before I went to MMA, I guess. At 10 years old, I didn't know what catch wrestling was.
Right.
But I would get on my bicycle and I would ride over to his house. In his backyard, he would just have a mat, maybe it just might have been carpet.
Yeah.
And I'm 10 years old, get off my bicycle, and get down, he get on his knees, and I would have mat burns on the way home.
Sure. Yeah.
I would have mat burns on my head at 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I'd be riding my bicycle and actually stop and wiping tears off because I was hurting.
Sure.
I knew I had to stop crying before I got home because my brother would whip my butt.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it was just that way back then.
Was there any time in this, I mean, your older brother was doing, did your parents ever step in and say,
Well, my
No.
dad, exactly. My dad left when I was 3 years old. My mom was deaf; she can't hear at all. She's a deaf mute, so she raised 5 kids. I was a baby.
wow.
So it was hard. It was a strong woman.
Yeah. I'm convinced people in our parents' generations, they were just cut from different cloth.
Right.
I mean, I always thought I was a pretty tough guy. I wasn't a pimple tough on my dad's ass.
Not even close.
I mean, these people were unbelievable. 5 kids and can't hear.
Right.
Incredible.
So, and I remember being the youngest, and I would have to go with her instead of going to the mall. We would go to shopping centers. And she'd sit me in there in the little bakery area or the cafeteria. And somebody would watch over me while she was in the parking lot trying to get a donation for ABC cards.
Mm.
You know, alphabet
Yeah.
all day long. That's why I hate to go to malls now. I hate to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just reminds me of that. But strong woman, she raised 5 kids, 2 wrestlers.
Yeah.
And my brother became like my dad because my dad left when I was 3, so he was strict on me coming up, and Mama was even stricter on him.
Well, in your brother's case, then he had some understanding of what this industry was and how difficult.
Right?
Was there a time he came to you and said no?
He didn't have to say no because I saw him come home bunches of nights just beat up.
Sure.
You know, beat up, and my mama used to tell him, "Y'all stop it, stop. Let me stop.
Yeah, stop it, right.
Stop and sign language." And then my phone keeps falling. Anyway, Mama would say, "Y'all crazy, right?" And it was so kayfabe back then. I didn't know. I thought it was real.
Yeah, sure.
It was real to me.
Yep.
And
Which, by the way, for the fans out there, that was how protective of the business those old timers were.
oh yeah, if you wasn't family, it's hard to get into business.
Yeah, true.
If somebody would open up a wrestling school, they would send a shooter over and close it.
Oh yeah.
It's that simple. But seeing him come home all them times beat up, then when I got into business, you know, I'd come home with sore all the time. That shit was real to me.
Sure. Yeah.
We didn't go the extra inch to kill each other, but hell, we got hurt.
Yeah.
And I was telling somebody today, like, today you see a guy get a clothesline, you clothesline him 10 times.
Yeah.
In our day, you get a clothesline, you got up too soon. If you're getting up too soon, you got kicked in the head.
Yeah. Yep.
Because you knew to sell it next time. That's just that's the way it was.
Right.
And made a different respect out of it.
Yeah. But also, I'm sure, this is rhetorical, of course, but because the industry was so near impossible to get in, that when you finally make it, and when I say make it, not you're Robert and Ricky the Rockets, but now you're a wrestler in the dressing room, that was alone a huge success, right?
Yeah.
You made it.
I remember when I was the youngest guy in there, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here with all these stars?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I just kept watching and learning and watching and learning, and watch what got over, what didn't.
Yeah.
And I like to see my respects to all the guys in front of me.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, I always say that the shoulders that we got to stand on, right? The people that we got to learn from and watch in the dressing room. I'm sure you're the same thing. I'd love to be 20 years old again.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I was 20 when I was 20 because that dressing room was chock full of those guys.
Somebody asked me the other day, said, Robert, if you had to do it all over again, would you do it? I said, absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah.
They said, really? You wouldn't do it again? Why? I said, because I couldn't go through the excitement and the adventures that I went through again. It was great.
Yeah, right.
I don't think I can handle it again.
Now, how long on the road before? Well, I always ask this because Steve Austin asked me in his podcast. How long were you in the business, in the dressing room, working matches before? And again, not that you mastered it, but before
Before the light went off.
Yeah, like when something like prior to that, something goes wrong in the ring. Oh my! Oh, what do I do next? What's the before you? How long was it that you were past that? Comfortable in your skin in the ring.
You know, they always told me, you do this, do that. And one day, I can talk to you all day about it, but one day it's going to hit you and you're going to go, damn, that's what they've been telling me all along.
Yeah.
And that's a good feeling, because once you get that, then you start feeling the people.
Yeah.
And once you feel the people, like right now, I'm just Robert Gibson. When I walk through that curtain,
Yeah.
I've asked myself 1,000 times, I've become a different person.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm Robert now. I'm Robert when I go through that curtain, but I'm not like I'm different.
Yeah. You take on that persona.
Yeah, exactly.
And really, that's the professional side.
It's weird how that transition. Yeah.
Right. You could be. I always tell people you could be have the worst flu you've ever had. Be beat up last night. Feel like that music hits and go through.
Yeah. Once you go through that curtain, it's crazy. Yeah.
So again, like I want to reiterate to the fans at home, what we're talking about is not that at this amount of matches or this number of years, ding, we had it all down. But it's just that point where if a spot gets slipped up, you don't panic. Grab it, do whatever to get back on track. And then
headline.
Yeah. And how many years total were you in the ring before you really did start to feel like you always learned this business, but you really had a really good grasp on this industry?
I'd say I had my first match when I started refereeing when I was 16. Had my first match when I was 17. My first match was against the Samoans.
Alphasika?
Yeah. And me and my brother against them in New Brockton, Alabama. And I'm 190 pounds.
And they're monsters.
I mean, they were in their prime. They were like monsters.
Yeah.
And that match, they made me look like $1 million.
Yeah.
Never felt them.
Pros. Yeah.
Absolute pros.
Yeah.
And but that's if they didn't like you, whew.
Oh yeah.
And I was lucky enough, probably easier to get in than you did because my brother paved the way for me earlier. And people that he worked with, all the top guys, I'm tag teaming with him, and I'm working with all the greats.
Yeah.
I didn't have to break in against Joe Blow.
Just follow the leader.
Yeah, and I was able to get in the ring at the very beginning with all the pros.
Yeah.
And if you had that, you learn so much quicker.
Oh, absolutely. And plus, I think there's something to be said too for, how the entire planet has changed. But when we were these kids we're talking about in that time frame, and you finally got picked up by a territory promotion, you were on the road 6-7 days a week.
Every day.
I mean, yeah, if you weren't out there making money, you weren't making money. So, you were wrestling then. And again, I always like to talk to our fans back home, but they're out there watching. This isn't like a gratuitous question like I know the answer to, but I do know the answer to this. In going out there and having these matches, and how suddenly you're still a gazillion things to learn, but now you've caught on by watching your brother and working with the Samoans and all these amazing talents, that now the light bulb starts going a little bit like, I got some ideas to throw in. And we were taught, keep your mouth shut. How long were you in the business before you actually went, got an idea, brother. I got an idea, Officer.
I never told them that.
Yeah.
I never told them that. Probably after 4 years of this,
Yeah.
5 years. Back then, the heels led everything.
Yeah, yeah,
The heel, you got your finish, and the heels caught everything.
yeah.
You might throw something in there every now and then, but other than that, you just keep your mouth shut.
First time I ever remember even opening, because Dominic had taught us, keep your eyes and ears open, and he'd go like this, shut the hell up. And I remember Randy Savage, Dominic had sent us up to do jobs, and Savage was my first match up there, and he was the top heel in the industry at the time. He came and said, "Oh, what can you do, kid?" I went, I'm afraid to open my lips, right? And I finally said something like, "Whatever you need, Randy." He goes, "No, what, give me some ideas." And I started hesitantly saying, "Well, I can drop kick and I can this," and he had like 2 or 3 things. I got it. And he walked away. And I figured he's just being a smart ass, right?
Yeah.
We went out to match, and he
It was time to
gave
go.
it to me, and then right after that, boom, back on me heavy. And we come back from the dressing room, and this guy, I am a nobody snot-nosed kid. He goes back and thank you, sir, thank you, sir. And I said, "It's not necessary." And he goes, "No, it is necessary. Always remember, if you want a career in this business, to thank the guy that's putting you over." And I've never forgotten that. Let's jump. We'll probably jump all over the place here because
I got a Randy Savage story.
yeah,
You want to hear it?
yes,
Like I said, I'm 16 years old. I'm in Mobile, Alabama, wrestling for Gulf Coast, refereeing for Gulf Coast Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
Lee Fields, the Wrestling Pro, all them guys, my favorites. Randy Savage and his daddy,
Poffo,
Angelo
Poffo, yeah.
Angelo, Poffo, and Lenny. Back then, they were Randy, Lenny, and Angelo, the Poffo boys.
Yeah.
And the daddy was a manager, and they're baby faces. Now I'm green, probably 10 matches in my
Yeah.
career.
Which is nothing.
It's just nothing, yeah. So and I know what the finish is, but everything changed in like 10 seconds. So what happened was, baby faces with Poffos, they're fighting the British Bulldogs, not the ones in New York.
Yeah.
They're fighting John Foley and Ted Heath.
Okay, I remember those. Yeah.
John Foley.
Boy, it's going back.
Yeah, I'm 16 years old. So John Foley and Ted Heath, they were the British Bulldogs. They were the heels. Now, Randy and Lenny are young baby faces. These guys are veterans. So you wrestle every night in different towns, and they're hitting heads.
Yeah, yeah,
They're not having good
Yeah.
matches.
yeah.
So now we're in the big town of Mobile.
What he means, let me start. What he means is there's no chemistry. They're all
Yeah.
both trying to take over on the other.
Yeah, there's nothing. They're butting heads. So now, baby faces come out. Here comes the heels. I'm refereeing. Okay, let's go. John Foley walks out of his corner, and Randy walks out. They lock up. Randy takes John Foley to the corner, hit him. I don't know if he hit him hard or working punch out there. I think in my mind, the working punch probably knocked the piss out of him.
Yeah, yeah.
But he hit him, grabbed his head, turned it around to Angelo. Angelo's on the floor. Angelo had a police officer slapjack. Wham! Hit him, split him.
Wow.
Split him wide open. They all jumped out of the ring and took off running. This is 10 seconds in the match.
Yeah.
Poffos take off running back to the locker room. I'm looking at him, oh shit, he's gashed open.
Sure.
Ted Heath come in and grabbed him, got him up, and they took off running to the locker room. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that ain't the finish.
Right.
So I just 8, 9, 10, and ring the bell.
Yeah.
That's all I knew what to do. I went back to the locker room, and they got John Foley laid back. The Poffos had their car packed, loaded. They come straight from the ring, did their damage in the car, and left the territory.
Wow.
Yeah. Left the territory.
And you're 16 at this time.
16 years old.
Yeah. So I always wonder if that's going to happen to you, right?
Yeah. See, like I said, you never know what happens in there. Some things happen crazy.
Yeah.
One night in the same town, I'm green again. The guys go on the floor fighting. My dumb ass gets out of the ring, goes with them. I got back and got chewed out.
Oh, yeah.
I could have got killed. out
Sure.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
Stay your ass in the ring.
Yeah.
It's the lesson you learn.
Right. You learn it the hard way or the easy way.
Yeah.
I want to jump forward a little bit, and we'll come back. First of all, before I go forward, and I'm sorry about this, but I'm feeding off what you're telling me. I'm interested. With your mother,
Yeah.
can't hear, and she's
Yeah.
doing this queen's job of raising some kids, some
Right.
snot-nosed kids, like I always say.
Right.
Did she ever get the chance to come and see you guys at your peak?
No.
No. She passed before?
Well, I take it back. She got to see me at my peak,
Mm.
not my brother.
Yeah.
My brother, a drunk driver, hit him early.
I remember hearing that, yeah.
That's right before me and Ricky Morton got together. That's in 82. Drunk driver hit him. They pronounced him dead on arrival, but he survived for 11 more years. He died taking too much morphine.
Yeah, wow.
But he was in pain.
So not only is your mother enduring this, but any parent out there can understand this.
Yeah, and she took her to when I was in Charlotte. She got to come down to cover the bashes, and I treated. I gave her the red carpet.
Hell yeah.
You know, gave her everything.
Well deserved.
Yeah, tried to give her everything I could give her.
Sure.
But she couldn't watch us wrestling. If she watches it on TV at home, my sister said she would throw a shoe at the TV. And my sister would tell him he's okay, and she's like, "No, he's cheating." You know?
Yeah.
She was a crazy lady.
But she got to see it. See, my dad was, I never knew when I was a small kid. Started watching 6, 7. When I was 13, cable came to the area.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad worked on the railroad, was always gone. But on this particular night, the day he gets cable put in, wrestling's on. They gave him a TV guide. So he goes, "Hey, wrestling's on tonight at midnight. You want to watch?" I had no idea my dad loved wrestling.
Yes.
So we watched it, and of course, I was hooked right back in. My dad, not long before he died, did see Ricky and I win the tag team straps. Right? Now, my dad was 48 when I was born, always in better shape than most of dads, but he was much, much older. And I had friends whose dads died at 41 and 40. So I was always afraid something was going to happen to my dad. So we're on the live clash. We win the belts. I run back to the payphone before cell phones, and I call my dad real quick. And my dad's crying because his son won a belt, right? Just proud of the peacock. So now we've got a segment afterwards in the locker room where Barry's going to come in and turn heel on us and bloody us all up. So I call my dad. He's crying because his son wins. Go do the deal right, and come back, down my dad again. My stepmother answers, and she said, "He can't come to the phone. He threw an ashtray through the television because we got busted open, right?" So now I decide, I got to smart my dad. Right? He's at this point 71-ish, like in that range, 2, like in there.
Before that, it came favors.
Total kayfabe, nothing.
My whole family, I can't smart them.
Yeah.
I tried to, and then it went up.
So with my dad, that night, throws the ashtrays, I put him on the phone. So I overboard lie. The blood's all fake blood. We never get hurt. This is all pretend and everything. And he listened for like an hour. And I said, "You understand that?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Do you have any questions?" He goes, "I just got one question, son." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Why do they put these small wrestlers in with these big wrestlers? That's not fair." And it struck me, my dad didn't want to get smartened up, right? They wanted to maintain that magic, but never got the chance to see world tag straps, but never world champion. And so the night that I won the NWA title and threw it down in ECW, right before, I didn't plan my promo out, but it was almost to the day, a year later, from my dad's passing, and I could feel him there. He was in that building, dude, and I stopped, and I just had goosebumps even saying, I said, "Here we go, Dad," because I could feel him there. And that's why I asked for your mother. After what she had endured, to finally get that chance to see this incredible spectacle that was wrestling at that time.
I can see the big smile on her face.
Yeah, of course. Hell yeah. How could you not?
Yeah.
So now perfect segue from Mom the Saint sees this incredible thing for the first time. We'll go back to the beginning in a second, but tell me, how intimidating was it to be in the Rock and Roll Express and have that almost Beatle-esque, following and just craziness of the fans?
Yeah, that's before we get there, can I tell you one more quick thing about parents and grandparents? Like I said, my dad left when I was 3. He came back around when I was about 16 years old. I was at a ball game. He came there, watched me play ball, and he asked me to borrow $100. And back then I was cutting grass, anything to make money.
Sure, yeah.
So I gave him $100. I ain't seen him now in 10 years before this.
Yeah.
So 16 years old, I give him $100. He leaves. I don't see him again for another 3-4 years. He comes back, in the same ballpark where we're playing ball. He comes back, he gives him $100. I pay him back my $100. I was expecting it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dad. He watched me play a couple innings. My dad's deaf too.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah.
So he called my dad. My dad called me over and he said, "I gotta go. You gotta borrow $100."
Really?
I gave him his $100 back. And I didn't see him again I started getting a name for myself.
Yeah.
Then I pulled up at Dothan Arena one night, Dothan, Alabama.
Yeah.
I pulled up the farm center, and the security comes out and says, "Your dad's here." I said, "My dad's here?" I said, "My dad left a long time ago. What's he doing here?"
Yeah.
I get out and look, and there's my dad. He had a couple of his friends. So I got him tickets, and I got him in. And I didn't see him again. I don't know how long. So I didn't realize, but my granddaddy, see, my dad was gone. I never seen him. I never got to meet my granddaddy on my dad's side.
Mm.
So later on in Dothan, Alabama, my grandparents moved to Dothan. That's why my dad was in town that night.
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Right.
So, about 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm in Panama City. Me and my brother were arresting the assassins. I'm 18 years old now.
Jody Hamilton and
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, they come off the top rope, and he gives up me,
Yeah.
and he cut me. And I mean, cut me.
Mm.
I mean, big
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
I'm bleeding in the ring,
Sure.
and they take me back to the locker room. On the way back, I never forget, on the right hand side, the ring side, the guy was leaning back in his chair, and there's people all around us. Referee here, my brother here, and that guy's leaning back. And he goes, "Ha ha! Look at all that ketchup." And when he said that to me, I knew it wasn't ketchup.
Right.
And him just saying that, I thought, all these fans think it's ketchup.
Yeah.
And I just stopped. I took my arm off my brother's shoulder. I looked at that guy and I went like this. And I caught him in his mouth as I turned him upside down. I said, "Taste that MF
Yeah.
and tell me if it's ketchup."
Yeah.
And they took me back to the locker room. Right away, they threw my ass in the shower,
Yeah.
trying to stop it. And I got on my boots.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been bleeding in the ring for 5, 10 minutes, whatever it was. So now I'm in the shower and they're trying to stop it.
Yeah.
They throw me in the car, they rush me to the hospital. They take me to the hospital and lay me on the bed. I'm laying there and I hear that they changing the patches steady.
Yeah.
And I hear the doctor say, "Stop the bleeding, I'll be right back." So I'm thinking of pretty girls on the beach, trying to be calm,
Yeah.
trying to get my heartbeat down, And they kept doing it. It seemed like forever, probably 30 seconds, but it seemed to me like
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And I hear that doctor's voice. I hear that nurse tell the doctor, "We can't stop it." And I should have got him and killed that woman. I heard her say, "We can't stop it." What they had to do, they had to close my head together. They sewed it up like you sew your pants up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't a stitch cut. It was
Right.
sew. They wrapped me up like a mummy.
Yeah.
I get in the car. I drive. Me and my brother drive home. Usually on that trip, we get home at 12:30 from Panama. Panama City to Pensacola, 100 miles.
Yeah.
You're home at 12:30. Well, I get home at 4 o'clock in the morning from the hospital. And we won the belts that night. So the next night, we got to be in Dothan, Alabama. That happened in Panama City.
Yeah.
So Ricky picks me up the next day at 3 o'clock. I get in the car. I'm still wrapped
Sure.
up.
Yeah.
Because you got to go to work. You just won the belt, so
Right,
you got to
right.
show up.
Yeah.
And I'm 18 years old, and I'm thinking, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Drive to Dothan, Alabama, and we get there, and we go to the ring, and Dothan got that dirt floor.
Yeah.
So on the way to the ring, people's like, what the hell? They see me come out, go in the building, come already beat up.
Yeah.
And on the way to the ring, assassins jump out. We have a big fight on the floor. As we're fighting on the floor, up in the stands, we got a big commotion. Everybody's attention went there. Here come the ambulance. They're taking somebody out. As they're taking somebody out, our match is over. We get back in the locker room, and it was my granddaddy. First time he ever come to see me, I didn't even know he was there. And he had a heart attack, and he died 3 days later.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, dude.
He got so excited,
Sure.
heart attack, died 3 days later.
Wow. When I was a kid going to Civic Arena in Pittsburgh,
All happened in that one arena.
yeah, I was the kid that even contemplated getting into the business. Bob Backlund had an angle going with Don Morocco at the time. And this month they went a 1 hour Broadway. So they have a return match next month. They're doing a 2 hour Broadway. But in the middle of that 2 hour Broadway, the lights all flip on and Pete cops, everybody's running up to the stands on the other side. The ambulance pulls in the back here. A woman had a heart attack up there. And so I kept, not that I knew to watch, but I kept watching, like, what are they doing in the ring, right? And Don had gotten Bobby in the arm bar, the arm lock. And they waited 15, 20 minutes to get out of there
Shut it down.
and shut the lights back down. They start the match back up, and Bob stands up. And I remember Don at this point is like 275, 80, big guy. And he can't help. He's holding on to the arm bar, right? And Bobby stands up and gets him and literally pick him. I remember like as a kid watching that and going, like, how in the hell did he do that, right? But the person dying in the stand like that, it's but again, you can't time out. We'll start this match over, right? You're in the midst of it. How much later did you find out it was your grandfather?
When I got back to the locker room.
So you weren't aware in the match?
No,
Thank
I had
God.
no idea.
Yeah, wow. I've never heard that story.
But I never got a really chance to really be around my grandfather.
Yeah,
Because he lived way down South Florida.
right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an incredible story. I mean, as long as we've known each other for what, 30,
Yeah, a long time.
35 years, and never hearing that story. But see, that's what fascinates me about wrestling is that, when we get into it, we know that we are marrying the business, right? I mean, there's no complaints about that. But then you hear stories like that, or, I remember Doc, having to miss his dad's funeral because he had to defend the title and things. And I remember as a kid thinking like, yeah, fat chance of that happening, right? And then you sort of get sucked into the business. So let's get back to the Rock and Roll Express.
Yeah,
So,
I think get back to Rock and Roll Express. The way that happened is in '82, me and my brother were partners up to '82. The drunk driver hit him, and in that drunk driving, they pronounced my brother dead on arrival.
right.
But he didn't die. The emergency brake pedal shot through his kneecap, came out on this end. They had to cut the metal from the car to get him out of the car.
My God.
He already had a broke arm, he had a pin in there. Not only did he have a piece of rod in his leg, that pin shot back like a horseshoe.
Yeah.
So I go to the emergency room and I hear him back there screaming.
Sure.
Doctor come out and says, "Who's here with Mr. Gibson?" I said, "Me, that's my brother." I said, "His name's Rick." He goes, "What does that man do for a living?" I said, "He's a professional wrestler." He said, "I knew it. He had to be one tough son of a bitch." He said, "Because right now he's back here screaming with a rod in his leg, a rod in his arm." He said, "Average person would have passed out."
Yeah.
He said, "He's still back there fighting." He said, "That's a warrior." He said, "But there's nothing I can do. We can't remove that until we get blood here. If we pull it out, he'll bleed to death. We got to have blood to put back in as we pull it out." But he lived 11 more years after that. But in the meantime, about 6 months after that, Jerry Lawler calls me. And he says, "Hey, I got an idea. I want to put you and Ricky Morton together." Ricky's in San Antonio.
Did you know Ricky at this point?
Yeah. I knew Ricky when I was 15. Wrestling singles before we was even rock and roll.
Yeah.
Wrestling one time. But Ricky was in San Antonio and he brought us up, wanted to bring us in. We both worked Memphis for 3 years as Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, but never together. And once they put us together, we show up and Jerry Lawler says, "Here's some outfits, y'all put these on." He had a purple one and a tan one. Ricky grabbed that purple outfit, and I had the tan one, and when I put it on, it looked like I was naked.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it looked just like your skin.
Yeah.
And with bandanas. And what can we do? We got some rock and roll magazines, Kiss and Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
What are these guys wearing? So we got bandanas and Lawler ties us up. Went over here at the flea market right next to the Coliseum. We bought these little pins with feathers on them. And we come out, the first night there, we get ready to come out, and never forget the usher. He goes, "Ricky, Robert, I don't know whether to call y'all Indians or Gypsies." So it was the Rock and Roll Express. But before we went to TV, before we even got the name, TV's getting ready to start, and all of a sudden, we got to have a name. We can't use Ricky and Robert because they think it's Ricky and Robert Gibson.
Right.
So let's change the name. Let's go R&R Express. And we get ready to go on TV, and Jimmy Hart says, "Why don't you call them the Rock and Roll Express?" And Jerry Lawler goes, "Jimmy, that's the worst damn name I ever heard of. We ain't got much time. We'll use it for today."
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Stuck ever since. Yeah. I mean, again, I want to talk to the fans about this because fortunately, I was that young snot-nosed kid. Try to explain today, the kids are all, blaming them their funds and stuff. Back then, we were such fans of the wrestling. I wanted to watch the matches, right? I mean, everything, because every night was different.
Everything.
But I remember, and I'm not saying this to blow smoke up anybody's backside, but when you guys would go through that curtain, the pop from the crowd was otherworldly. I mean, it was, the big names would go out and they get get that pop here, right? The top stars are gonna get, Flair would go out and him and Steve would get this reaction. You guys would come out and that,
Shake the building.
yeah, just rumble. And it was, as a kid watching it, thinking, like, my God, like that's,
I'll never forget the first time we went to Fayetteville. Jim Crockett come to get us in the Mid-South, Bill Watts. He said, guys, Ric Flair says so much about y'all. I want to bring y'all in. He said, but I got to be honest with you. He said, our crowd is nothing like what y'all doing down here. We were in the Superdome that night.
yeah,
He said, they ain't drawing what y'all drawing. I'd like to bring you up. So we said, well, okay, we'll go. And I never saw a bad house.
yeah,
They did our videos before we got there.
yeah,
I never saw a bad house.
yeah. Oh, a huge over. I mean, you know, there would be later incarnations, right? Hulkamania was going to come, and you know, all of that.
Yeah.
But this was like really the first time I had seen wrestlers going out there and getting that. Again, the only thing I can in my head liken it to was like Beatlemania.
We were rock stars, didn't know it.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, now did that ever take a bad incarnation? I mean, I know the girls are going crazy for you and stuff, but most guys, the girls are going crazy for somebody else, sort of sets them off in those southern towns and stuff. Was there ever a time where you guys had issues that way of?
No, there was too many girls around.
Yeah.
I mean, there was it
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah.
They were, as soon as our match was over, they were in the cars. We pulled out, and they'd be 3 miles long.
Yeah, yeah,
It got so bad, the cops had to stop the fans, take us out of town.
yeah,
I remember we'd be at red lights. People would jump out of the cars.
yeah.
It couldn't go nowhere.
There had to be. I mean, obviously, it's going to feel flattering, right? Man, his fans love us.
Yeah.
But was there ever a time that it became suffocating, like too much of it?
Well, you had to live with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you had to live with it.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to ask for it. The police department in Charlotte would actually send a different cop to my house every night to keep people away.
yeah.
And
yeah.
it was,
See, as a young kid in the dressing room, how that played out in my head was, you know, when you're a kid in these dressing rooms with all these stars we're talking about, these legends and icons, you're thinking, I can never get to that level, right? And then suddenly I'm hearing this wild, like Beatlesque reaction. I'm thinking, like, okay, I was going to have trouble getting to the first guy's level. Now, like, everything sort of paled in comparison to that.
see, I was looking at, like I said, with my brother, I got to that height, so high, but never got as high as me and my partner.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was magic in the ring. Here recently, and I've been wrestling for 40 years, well, with Ricky, but longer than that.
Yeah.
46 years I've been wrestling. But this just happened recently, about 2 months ago in St. Louis. We did a show, and nowadays, after doing autograph signings, the fans have come up, and they're introducing their kids to you, telling their kids, "Hey, these was our heroes when I was your age."
right, right.
And these kids look at us like, "Mom,
Yeah,
Dad,"
yeah.
and they take off. And it's happened several kids that particular night come in there and did the same thing. They got Mom, they take off. Well, later on that night, we had our match. After we had our match, that's why I say it's magic. After we had our match, I always look when the match is over, I see my way back to the locker room. And I look, I see all these same kids that come by my table earlier, saying they didn't want nothing to do with me.
Yeah,
But now they're the first ones in line screaming.
yeah. Got him hooked.
They're screaming.
Yeah.
And I noticed it because I saw them earlier.
Right.
So when the match was over, I'd never done this in my whole life. As I walked back, they're screaming, "Can we get a bandana?" And I stopped. I threw my hands up. I said, "Kids, y'all can take everyone I got." And they stripped me in 2 seconds.
Is that right?
I mean, head to toe, they took every bandana I had on.
Yeah.
And for me, to see their faces, that's why I stood up.
Well, you know, and I know exactly where this goes. Is that, you know, with us getting into the business, first of all, getting that reaction had to be an incredible high, right? And I always try to tell people that being in a ring in front of an audience, whether you're a comedian or a singer or a guitar player or a wrestler, in
Get
front of
their
that,
attention.
yes, and to have that where you can connect to that crowd,
It's magic.
yeah, it's when you keep saying magic, because I use that phrase all the time. And I'm guessing again, it's rhetorical.
Yeah.
In your career, you guys have had a lot of staple matches, Rock and Roll Express, and the Road Warriors and Flair, and all these different incarnations. Was there ever a time that you were in the ring and you have this match, and you go back thinking that you shit the bed, like we missed that one, we didn't quite hit it. Then later you get a chance to watch it back,
It was great.
and you think,
What the hell?
at that point, could you when you were watching it, did you feel like you were watching somebody else's match? Have very little recollection of what you were watching you do?
No, I forgot what I did. I know what I did, but I thought it was worse than what it looked.
Yeah. Because there's times when I've seen matches of mine. The one that comes to mind is the three-way dance with Sabu and Terry Funk in the ECW arena. I had never been in that kind of match and had never seen that kind of a match. So, heat, shine, come back, the whole thing. This was none of that. It was just like, man, it was coming in like pieces like that. And
It wasn't flowing.
no flow to it at all. And to me, I was the one that had gone the full 60 minutes. Funk started, left after 15, Sabu came. So I'm laying down blown sky high. It's like middle of like hot summer months in Philadelphia. I'm blowing sky
9
high.
degrees, water in your boots.
Yeah, and Sherry Martel was managing at the time, and I rolled to the ropes.
What a great woman.
And I'm phenomenal. Miss her. But I remember in my head thinking like, son of a bitch, we screwed that one up, right? And I hear Sherry going, oh my God, look at this. I'm laying under the ropes trying to catch my wind, and I turn and give it a standing ovation. And at that moment, I'm thinking, they're just being nice because we went an hour, right? Well, then I got the tape sent to me that week, and I sat down and watched it, rewound it, watched it. I'm like with music, I need to listen to something 4, 5, 6 times, and then like it'll catch me. And the first pass through, I'm watching and going, not as bad as I thought it was. Say, not bad. They're pretty good and keep going through. But then I was asking myself, like I see me like the three-way sleeper, and I'm thinking, I don't remember that. Like, where did that come from? And vast portions of that match, I had no recollection of. It was just something that happened, almost like you were like a robot just going through the motions.
Right.
How often in your career have you experienced that?
Several times.
Yeah.
Be doing something, all of a sudden you're somewhere else, and it's just there.
Yeah. You're not even thinking.
No.
It just happens. Yeah, incredible.
That's when you know you learn to work.
Somewhat, right? Still trying to learn.
You never stop.
No, that's for sure. I mean, I'm trying to get to the root of this. I'm probably going to belabor this point because as a kid watching it, I was so again, this is like really before the WrestleMania Hogan, and I mean they were around the business.
You grew up watching WWF.
Mostly up in Pittsburgh until we got the cable. Then I could see the NWA, and I was like,
wow.
oh my God, this is incredible. The being in those dressers, we talked about like, what am I doing here with all these other people? First of all, I want to say to you guys on camera, to you and Ricky both, when you're that kid in the dressing room, not that anybody's rude to you, but they're just sort of doing their thing and don't really notice you. You're just sort of over there. You and Ricky always made me feel welcome in that dressing room. And hey, kid, how you doing? That kind of, and it just helped, thaw some of that ice.
Try to make it easy.
Intimidated, right? But then I would go and watch your matches, and because we were in similar size, wrestled similar styles, and watching. And just seeing that connection to the audience that we all work so hard to try to get, and lots of us don't ever get that. I always say with Steamboat about the magic thing. If Steamboat wanted just that corner to pop, he could get just that corner to pop. And I'm thinking, like, how the hell are you doing that? Like, that's a magic trick, right? And going out there, you guys were so over. I mean, you knew you had that in the reserve. We could always get the pop of the crowd. Mm-hmm. At what point and how long into the run did it start becoming, okay, automatically I can go to this. Like we can get this crowd to react however we want.
Walking through the curtain. Walking through the curtain.
Walking through the curtain. Yeah.
That's where it all starts.
And you knew it was there.
That's where it all starts.
Yeah. And then, of course, you guys get this incredible opportunity with NWA at that time. And Midnight Express, Dennis Condrey and Bobby, and Cornette. How long into that run, that angle, did you guys realize, like, we're doing something special here? Like, this is, okay, there's a lot of great matches on the card, but Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, that is like icing on the cake, cherry on top. Like, it's getting into that
I
special.
sat back and watched some matches. It's like
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Yeah. Because we're fans of the business. We
Yeah,
love
yeah,
watching
yeah.
it.
It's to just sit back and damn, did I do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it back in my heyday, everybody could work,
Yeah. Yeah.
and me and Ricky was able to work with everybody.
Mhm.
Like road warriors couldn't work with certain people; they had
Yeah.
certain styles.
Right.
We were able to work with big guys, little guys.
And to a promoter, a booker, that's an incredible
Oh, yeah,
talent
that's
to
a
have.
blessing. Yeah,
I could put these guys in with anybody.
anybody.
Yeah.
That's a blessing.
And you have the built-in Rock and Roll Express gimmick that you know is going to explode the thing. So all it took was for you or Ricky or both just start selling a little bit.
Yeah.
And to the fans out there, again, I like to just communicate this to them. I hope I'm evoking and reaching through to the wonderment that I was watching at that time. To when you guys would be in the cell, regardless of which one it was, you know, Black Bart or somebody, hey kid, look at the girls over there. You look over and the
Crying.
tears running down their face. Come on, Robert. Go.
Right.
And watching this and thinking like, this is
Grandmas
crazy.
too.
Yeah, it was
Grandmas
nuts.
too. Yeah.
You know, back when I was breaking in, you know, at the start of my career, we had the ringside rosies, right? But they were usually pretty, you son of a bitch, you know, that kind of stuff. There wasn't this, oh my God, my guy's getting hurt.
You're looking, and not only the girls, the guys were wearing bandanas.
Yes.
Every high school you went to, you go by, all the kids were wearing bandanas.
Yeah.
They had the big boulders out in front of schools, and they had them decorated rock and roll.
Yeah.
It was just the 80s.
Right.
Rock and roll was hot in the 80s.
Rock and roll, and you guys somehow, and not in a corny way. You know, that kind of stuff can be done almost cornball.
Yeah.
But everybody knew that you guys were the generation that grew up listening to that rock and roll, the Beatles, the Stones, Kiss, Led Zeppelin, all of them. And now here you are out, and every kid in that dressing room or in that building is listening to Kiss and Beatles and Rolling Stones and all the same ones, and that connection there. But that explains a piece of it.
We were in Japan, go across the street to McDonald's in Japan.
Yeah.
The Village people were in there, the wrestling fans.
Yeah, is that right?
They were in McDonald's. I met them in McDonald's.
Yeah.
Later on, we was at a bar in Japan. There's a Def Leppard wrestling fans. Give me a pick.
Yeah.
And they made rock and roll. And we shot pool with them all night.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's something that transcended, right?
Exactly.
From again, when you were a kid breaking in first into the business with your brother, I remember as a young kid going to the matches and being the cigar smoke filled rooms. You know, it was like the steel workers coming home from work and everything. You know, the factory workers, salt of the earth people from my family. But then seeing, like, by the time I broke into the business in the 80s, seeing that change, it was no longer just blue collar guys. There were doctors and lawyers and blue collar guys and white and black and brown, and I mean every segment of that audience. But I don't recall, again, I know I keep beating this to death, but I don't remember seeing the blue collar guys cheer for you guys and the white collar guys, screw these guys, or the blacks not loving you guys, only the whites. I mean, this was legitimately the UN. Like, everybody latched into that, and along with it, took the whole promotion upward like that. Now, I'm somewhat familiar with the story to come a little bit later, but how you guys make not your break, but this is like where Rock and Roll Express really takes off, right? From Memphis to Mid-South, now in the NWA.
Now we're on cable.
Yeah, with the cable coming in and everything. But I know, without knowing this, that you guys had to be being wooed, right? Hey, Robert, this is so-and-so from WWF.
Right.
I mean, how many of those calls came and how often did they come?
You know, they didn't come too often.
Yeah.
I think at the time, Russo was a booker in WWE,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't like tag teams.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the reasons why Sean and Marty got split.
Yeah.
He didn't like tag teams, so he was never a Rock and Roll Express fan.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because again, like, you know, Vince had an eye for talent.
Right.
We can splice hairs on the other parts.
We did get a big offer. Vince wanted Midnight, Jimmy, and me and Ricky.
Mm.
And everybody, it was a really good offer.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to go but Ricky.
Yeah.
So,
Was there a reason? I mean,
uh,
you know, first of all, the grass is always greener on the other side.
yeah.
And as somebody who had checked that grass out and found it a little browner than I thought it would be.
Yeah, we never touched it.
Yeah.
And Vince couldn't believe we didn't go.
Yeah.
But everybody wanted to go but Ricky.
Now, did Jimmy reward that? Jimmy Crockett?
Well, we should have,
Yeah.
but that's
Somehow it just fell by the wayside.
something different, yeah.
You know, again, because there have been things since in the business that have gotten over huge, right? Quite a few things. But even to this day, there's been very few things that I've seen get to that level. I remember as a kid going out, doing jobs in WWF, getting showered as fast as I could and get up there because they'd have Hogan on last, right? I wanted to get up in the stands. And to this day, I can't watch a monitor. It's sterile to me.
Yeah.
I need to be in the crowd, feel the crowd, see the energy.
Yeah.
And he would come to that curtain and literally static electricity, like on your arms. Like you like literally feel this. And I remember seeing that same type of thing as that kid in the dressing room, wonder what I'm doing there, and watching with Rock and Roll Express. And then, you know, the angles that so incredibly played off that, the Four Horsemen, and, you know, the even like when they would do like Flair breaking Ricky's nose, which was incredible. But there was still, like, nobody was going, okay, let's forget about Robert and let's watch this over here. They were still chanting rock and roll, and they were still seeing you as one guy almost. Was there ever a time, and if you don't want to answer this, I totally understand, because again, you guys were reaching stratospheric levels that very few talents in the business do. When that was starting to happen, and nothing that has to be personal, screw him, or anything like that, but was there ever a time, like you said, everybody but Ricky wanted to go, was there a time that you felt like, okay, maybe it's time to do this? And you know, yeah, we've had our run, had an incredible go, but maybe.
Well, never thought about splitting because there's no rock and roll without Ricky or Robert. You gotta have both.
Right.
And we were so hot, and even though I was ready to go, you know, like I said, if I go there, if Crockett wants us, he'll match it.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't match it, I'm gone.
Right.
But he never had the opportunity to even ask me.
Yeah. Was it then sold at that point? Is that around the time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that in and of itself, again, I was there for that time.
And then when you get so hot, when you get that stratosphere, like you're saying, then you start getting a lot of jealousy.
Yeah.
A lot of jealousy.
Yeah, it's human nature.
Yeah, and Dusty, I love Dusty. He tried to break us up, but the fans wouldn't let him.
Right. Yeah.
Fans wouldn't let him. They didn't want to see it. So
See, and that again speaks to like how over this was with the fans. This was, and I don't want to give it overly abundant, glory, but this to the wrestling fans that were in those buildings watching the NWA show, whether on Superstation or in those buildings, the Rock and Roll Express had become as close to a religious thing for the NWA as, say, you or I going to church on Sunday. This to those wrestling fans is something, and you see it today. You know, after this long career, incredible career, you can still watch, and I'll be in the dressing room telling the guys like, "Hey, kid, watch this." Is because you just see that magic. You know, you guys. Let's face it, none of the spring chickens anymore, right?
Yeah.
But get in there, and that crowd is on their feet, rock and roll, and the whole thing. 15 minutes, you guys haven't done this, and boy, the crowd is crazy, and it's just a thing that so few people in the business get to experience.
yeah, and once you feel it, it's like I said, it all starts when you come out of that curtain. They gotta feel you. You gotta feel them.
Yeah.
And you work off of them.
Sure. Well, I distinctly remember you talk about watching the other guys, watching you guys in that backstage area. You know, rock and roll. I mean, Midnight has gone to the ring, and you guys are getting ready to go through. And what always impressed me was that how calm and at ease you guys were. And you know, you're going to go through, get this incredible response, and have these matches that were so incredible. But there was almost like, you know, the doctor that shows up and puts his white coat on and goes, "Let me check your temperature, let me check your knee here," right? They just go to work, and they're professionals and do their thing. I saw the same thing with you guys, and I remember that impressed me, even though I didn't really know what it meant. But like, you guys ain't stressing. You're getting ready to go out and have a good time.
Have fun.
Yeah, and that bled downhill. I mean, that rolled downhill to us greenhorns in the dressing room.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time that you guys, you or Ricky or both of you, thought this may be coming to an end? Like, maybe it's time to start thinking of what's on that other side of the fence.
No, not even today.
Yeah,
Not even today. Like I said, as long as I can see the kids smile,
yeah.
That's why I said that.
Yeah, and that in and of itself is incredible, right? It's I always say this, we always hit it for about time. I get so sidetracked like in these conversations, but again, I always tell the viewers at home, these are the conversations that we have on the roads, right? We get in a car, go to 6-hour drive somewhere. Hey, Ricky, your mom was deaf, didn't hear, and she heard. Yeah, these are the stories that we have. So hopefully, you fans can get the idea that for these guys like Ricky and Robert that you've watched and supported and loved for so many years, that this is what we wrestlers do. This is the truest look behind the curtain. So glad to have you back on. We have a lot
Man,
more
it's
to
a pleasure
talk
to be
about.
with you and to the fans out there, man. Live your dream.
And thank you for letting me learn from guys like you.
No, thank
We'll see you next time on Appalachian Expose.